Hello, and welcome to another film in our Wreaths for Remembrance collection. And this time today we're watching a film by Mr. Murdo MacLeod, who lives in Raffin in Assynt. Murdo has many exciting stories to tell of when he served on landing craft. So together with his cat, Jock, let's enjoy the film. Thank you very much for watching.
We were in a kind of special branch, the what they call combined operations. We worked with the Army and the Air Force, you know. When I first joined, it was the Royal Navy proper, you know, the General Service. I was stationed. We were in divisions. I went to Chatham, Donald John went to Portsmouth. And they took me out of General Service, you know, and put me into combined operations, which was really landing craft and special services.
Was that 39?
The landing craft, the combined ops was separate from the general navy. You know, like cruisers and destroyers and that. We weren't with them. We were on flotillas of landing craft.
Right.
You know, gunboats and flagships.
Right.
We were there to protect like the assault landing infantry boats, landing craft, anything going into the shore, to the beaches. We could go right into the beach with them. Well, I had to be. We were lucky, but we could see others getting blown up when they hit these obstacles. So they were they had a whole rows of these cross things and the explosives tied to them. Whenever a boat hit that, it would blow it up.
Just going bits.
But
Was that from 1939?
no, that was 1944. That was Normandy.
Oh, I see that.
From there, I wasn't in 1939. I was 1942, I think.
That's when you joined.
42, yeah. And for that, I was in two flagships. LCF 42 was the first one I was on, and I was only off at a fortnight when she was going alongside the cruiser, the Belfast, and she was hit. The Germans were shelling from the harbour, and anti-personnel shell. Massacred about 50. You know, wounded and killed. Alongside the cruiser, they tried to hit the cruiser, but she hit her mast. I hit the LCF 42. And I had only just left her a week before that to go on to her sister ship, LCF 39.
That's very fortunate.
And somebody was looking after me that day. But well, we left. All the ships were all congregating all along the South English coast, from Portsmouth, what do you call it, the big port there, Portsmouth. We're all along there, and we're gathering there. And we sailed during the night. Monday, I always remember it was a Monday night sailing. It was black. How the hell there was no collisions or sinkings? Because when you could see, when the light came, there were thousands of ships, as far as the eye could see. And we were in front, only ahead of us was the minesweepers, you know, to clear a path for each. And then the big merchants had big liners loaded up carrying troops, and they had the LCAs, the assault landing craft, slung out over the sides, and they filled them up and off they went. Well, we escorted them. We kept on their flank all the way, in case for dive bombing and shelling from the beaches.
Which they would have
Then I suppose there were quite a number of them drowned too, because when some of them were in with deep water and they were heavy loaded, you know. They just went down like a stone, you know.
Not everybody could swim anyway.
But the beaches, and as I told you, that incident, we were firing. We got in as close, and when the assault landing craft touched the beaches, the front drops down and the men are ashore. The tanks get ashore. But we were covering them all, even from the Germans ashore. We could train our guns on them and just, you know, give our boys a chance. But even then, they'd pay a price.
Pretty hairy stuff.
And we stayed there we saw the 6th Airborne the next day or the next night. I think it was the 7th, or maybe it was that night. You saw the Dakotas with the gliders, hundreds of them. He passed over us the beaches. The land, the boys were in a bit for that time, you know, and we could see the parachutists coming down, you know, the airborne division coming down. The Dakota.
Quite a sight.
Well, we stayed there for over 2 months, two months and a week or two into August. And that was I think it was the last week before we left. What we'd done every night, we went out, and from the Normandy beaches, intervals maybe quarter to half a mile, you know, between each boat, done a semicircle facing towards Le Havre. That's where our army never took Le Havre right away. It was that strong, that area, Le Havre area, that they just passed by it and circled it. The army went straight on further into Belgium, France, you know. But, I can't remember. And everything was that black, and you didn't show it.
No
And the night
navigation
was
lights.
all lit up with shell fire and tracer bullets and God knows what, you know.
No navigation lights.
Nothing. You daren't show it. Oh, you get shot, you know, if you showed a cigarette end even on board. Oh, all the portholes were shut, black. Everything was blacked out, you know.
How old would you have been at that time?
Well, I was, I'd be about 20,
20.
19. I was joined about coming in 19 when I joined them. It's 20. I had my 21st birthday in Holland.
In Hollington, no?
And when we were up the canal there, we were supposed to take that Scowing Island, you know, with the Germans still on it. You could see where that part we were in South Bay, it was a Canadian division had taken that. You see the Canadian graves there, where the locals had buried them, you know, hung their helmets over just at the side of the canal.
Right.
The Canadians there. But there was the Canadians and I think the 14th Scottish, it was at Volcom. They would come in from the landward side, we came in from the sea with the Marines and you know, at West Kirkelly. But yeah, they got a hell of lost a lot of ships there, a lot of landing crafts there.
Everybody paid the price.
But the army coming in from it just, well, we were on the seaward side with it, and the Canadians and I think it was the 14th Scottish were on the landward side, coming by the land, and the Jerrys were in between the two lots, you know. But they put up a stiff fight, especially on our side, you know, the Navy against the Navy. They sank a lot of boats and killed a lot of them. And it was probably the same Canadians that went further up to Earsigi where we were afterwards. And you could see their graves where they had been buried by the local people, you know.
An awful lot of men lost then.
Oh, that's what makes you angry, you know, when you see these bloody arseholes, politicians and the kiddies at the school. They come out of school at 16, they say, oh, you get a job. There are no jobs for them. They'll not give them a halfpenny till they're 18. They'll not get any unemployment or nothing. I don't know what they live on. The people must be keeping them. They don't get that far, then that's not what these men were fighting or dying for. They're treating them just like blooming animals.
Do you think it was a bit of a waste then?
I think so.
So much effort, such a cost.
Aye.
And then
But when you think of the French and the Dutch and I think the biggest mistake we ever made was going into this common market.
well, many would agree.
The French were treacherous, you know. We were only a small representation under, what do you call them, de Gaulle, for the Free French.
Yes.
They were only a token force, that was all they were. Majority of the French were collaborating with the Germans. They were wanting to declare war on us, the Vichy government. Darlin, what was his name? Darlin, Laval, and them. I wouldn't trust them.
You wouldn't trust the French.
I wouldn't trust any of the Europeans, the French, Belgians, and the Dutch. We went ashore in Holland there, when our troops had passed through, half the women were scalped, collaborating with the Germans. They're probably what do they call it, resistance crowds, and knew that they'd been collaborating with
Of course.
and they were bare to the skull, But I wouldn't trust any. I think we're no Europeans anyway. No, we done the wrong thing, I think, during the Commonwealth. We should have stuck by. We were getting plenty from New Zealand, Australia, Canada. We're trading with them. I know we're getting good meat and butter and everything else from there. Look, when we threw them over to join the common market. No.
So what other areas were you in with your...
Well, I was mostly
Landing,
western approaches, Before that, before Normandy, and that was escort. In the North Sea too, we used to take escorting the merchant ships.
What kind of ship were you had in the North Sea?
Oh, these same landing craft. Aye.
So they're quite good seaboats.
Oh, of course, these were decked. I mean, the ordinary tank landing craft, they looked like were hollow, where they could fill it up with tank, put couple of tanks in and fill it with troops, and the bows dropped to let them get ashore. But with us, we didn't have that drop bow, or we had a deck, a steel deck, which was tar macadam.
Right.
We're all steel.
Tar macadam.
No wonder we were forever wet, damp, condensation. They try to cork the steel, but was no use.
So it's pretty miserable.
You were wet all the time. When you slung your hammock at night, your blankets were damp. You'd put and when you were at sea, you always slept fully closed. You were always fully closed.
It's cold, yeah.
With your life belt on. It was these inflatable. It was like a big sausage, but that length with tape at either end and a hook. Put the hook up your neck and the tape. You just put the sausage around your waist and tied it.
And that was you.
And a tube, you inflated it by mouth, you see. Inflated it by mouth.
If you had
But
to.
you always had to wear it when you were at sea.
So this was you in the North Sea,
North Sea and the Channel and the western approaches in the Atlantic,
escorting
The-
bigger ships, was it?
Escorting merchant ships,
Merchant ships.
carrying cargo and things like that. Because we were on the east, the North Sea coast, the east coast of England, were in the Wash there. The Wash was filled with ships that had been sunk. You see the mast, it was shallow. See the mast sticking up. German E-boats, these E-boats. Something like our MTBs.
Speedboat.
But they were far superior to
Were they?
our high. In fact, the German warships were far superior than anything we had, as far as their armaments were concerned.
They were well prepared, of course.
Oh, they were well prepared. We supplied them with steel in the 30s.
Is that a fact?
We supplied them. And the Yanks were selling them stuff too.
So nothing.
We supplied the Germans with steel from this country.
Never thinking.
And look what's happened after that. Instead of going ahead and bombing every bloody town and city in Japan, they done two in the surrender. As soon as they surrender, they start building them up again.
Right.
Japan's one of the number one nations in the world today.
Well, look at Germany.
I know. She's going to be a troublemaker yet in the future.
Do you think so?
Aye.
So powerful.
Germany always has been in Europe, and we should never have joined you. And as far as the French, the French are shit scared of the Germans. Shit scared of them. Well, they've smashed them, first of all, in 1870, Bismarck's day. They were in France to Paris. They smashed them between in 1914-18, and it was ourselves and the Americans that saved them. And they done it again in 1939 and really conquered them. And they were asking, what was his name? Goebbels or Goring, some of the French leaders. They had their Vichy government, you see, a puppet government under the Germans. They were wanting to declare war on us, and they were allies a year or so before. I wouldn't trust them as far as I throw them. None of them, none of the Europeans. Oh, I prefer the Nordic people, the Swedes and the Norse, the Norwegians and Swedes. They're all right.
So was your crew made up of the Scottish and English?
Scottish and English. And there might be an odd Irishman.
Irish chap. Any Welsh?
Aye, yeah, aye, there was Welsh
as well.
Well, they had to, they had to be, when you'd see like that, you had to be well knitted together, you know, because your life depended on the man at your side. You know.
Right.
One man can sink a ship. One man falling down his job can sink a ship. And we're all interchangeable.
So everybody knew everybody's job.
The naval crew, there were only 20 of us. There was telegraphists up in the bridge with the skipper, and the signal, that young chap signalman. And then you had engine room men and seamen, you know, ABs and that. But most of the ship's company was Marines. You carried about 120 Marines. All armed, you know, all ready to go ashore to send them in ashore. But
So what would it have been like for the Marines on board the ship? Pretty cramped.
aye, oh, it's calm. You see, nowadays it's blooming in the bigger ships anyway. They're like luxury hotels now with their cabins and their bunks. We had nothing like that. You a couple of hooks, a hook here and a hook there, and you slung a camera. And then in the morning when you got up, you had to lash it up and clear it because your mess deck, where you ate your meals, was down below you, underneath your arm. You were, you know, and we were the stern. The Navy men were in the stern, and they had a big kedge anchor at the back, and in rough weather it would up and bump. You could.
A lot of seasickness.
Well, I was never guilty of that, and I know boys had been at sea for years and be seasick, maybe the first few days. But we used to come up. We keep turning about in the mess deck, in the naval mess deck, so to go up, and all you had was a hatch, like that, you know, a steel hatch with cover in it, and a steel ladder perpendicular. There were no stairs or gangways or anything like that, just a steel ladder. You'd go up and down there. Well, would you cross over the deck going forward to the galley where they made the meals, and you come back with the dixies. They carried dixies of food in your mess. And the Marines would be on the guns, you see. We all wore these duffel coats, you know, the camel duffel coats, right? We used to get home comforts, you know, a woman that maybe had get these sheepskin waistcoats and that. You could dress any way aboard us. We weren't a pucker saluting and salaaming and all that, and nothing of that. You know, the Marines were a wee bit regimented, but they were quite a free and easy, you know. It was free and easy, but the guns were, when you see, they were always manned, night and day, you know. You done 4 hours on, 4 hours off, and at night they were in watch. That's what I say, a lot of them used to save their totty rum at night for one. But at night, if you were wanted anything, if you're cold, freezing, there's spray and all that, you could go down the galley and had what we call kai, but it was you know that chocolate, kind of chocolate, made it from big barsies, this chocolate, and it's a kind of cocoa. It's kind of coke, it's something only stronger. You get a big mug of that at night, or if one of your mates would bring you up, or if you're on watch up on deck, you know.
So that would keep you alive.
Keep you warm, man.
Did you ever see U-boats?
see, some of them here, they got excused, they got exempt from the forces because they were agricultural, you know. A lot of folk.
A lot of local folk around here.
Aye. I think so.
Crofters.
I come up
Fishermen.
Crawford, fishermen. Well, they were needed for the supplying food. Another lot was the miners.
Oh, aye.
And that day, you could, if you didn't want to go into the army or the forces, you could. They put a lot into the mining, you know,
Right.
boys.
Yes, I know.
What do they call them? They had a name for them.
A conscientious objector.
No, one conscientious objector. The Bevan boys.
Bevan boys.
Bevan was the Minister of Labour or something in the government, and he wanted a big force of workers for the mines. And a lot of boys, it was never miners, you know, but if they went into that, they didn't need to go into the army.
I see. So it was an option
They
for
had
the
that
state of your
option.
health or whatever that you could do.
Well, a lot of them maybe wasn't physically fit, you know, maybe
That's
when
right.
they passed the tests and that.
No, that's right.
But, and they could go into the, you know, civilian job.
Shipyards or whatever. Yeah. Plenty other tasks to be done.
Mhm.
So that was you out in the North Sea.
We were up at we went to Invergordon once.
Uh-huh.
We were in there a wee while doing mock invasions. And it was our own army ashore. But we were it was all live ammunition. We had one marine aboard us killed. Our own army firing, I think with Bren guns or something. We were sailing along, you know, mock invasion, as it were. Up near Cromarty Firth, up that way. Up near the Fort Rose, you know. Our own army, they never fired hell out. It's supposed to go over us and in between us. We were sailing in line. This poor Hill, what's his name? He was on his gun too. And he must have ducked, he was ducked like that behind these Orlicans, you can swivel them or up, down, you know. And there were two bullets were through his helmet, they're in his helmet here. And you could see two small holes in the middle of his forehead. And it went down in a slant and took the whole back of the neck away. The whole back of the neck away. He lived. We made it as fast as we could. I think we'd go to the hospital and then we're gone. But he lived just hours. Died, you know.
It would better be just being killed.
Killed right out, aye. But we don't know his brain. His brain would come out the back of his neck and his ears. Because it was me and the artificer, a Welshman, the two of us went to him. And like the senior, the skippers they had them, well, it wasn't morphine. It's morphine generally they use, but this was Omnipon they called it. Ready prepared with a needle on it to give him, you know. And one of the big, we all carried shells dressings, you know, big shells, put it in the back of his neck. But the whole back of the neck was away. But he was still alive, that was it, bloody jack. They killed him right out. But he lived for about 4 or 5 hours after in the hospital. But there's nothing they could do in the hospital. Because I'd gone through there, bound to scatter his brains and taken the back of the neck.
So you'd have seen quite a lot of casualties.
Oh, aye. I've seen us having 4 just like that. That 4 Marines. Then there was that one in Normandy with Chap Campbell. Came to the Elgin boy.
He was stood beside you.
Aye, was he just there? I know a scrag, I never had a scrag. We're standing by the smokestack, you know, we call it smokestack, it was funny.
Just taken away.
Just away like that. One minute he was standing watching like myself watching.
It was a bit of a lottery then.
Aye. Oh, it is. I mean, the man round about you could be dropped and you could go on, you know. That's the way it was in the
Good numbers up.
exactly.
Yeah.
There was somebody looking after me that time.
Aye.
The worst thing is not the actual action, it's the waiting. Because you're insides like that, you know, with adrenaline, I suppose.
Mhm.
It's the waiting, and then you don't know what to expect. You know they're firing it. You see maybe one of the other landing craft hitting an obstacle, hitting explosives, and going up. There are a lot of that, a lot of route wrecked.
Was there ever
Landing
times when you
craft.
felt you just couldn't go through with it? You know, well, you had no to run anyway.
No, I don't know.
And dive over the ship.
You feel the support of your mates. You've got to have that. You, you get you're in a unit. It doesn't matter where you're from, Somerset or Wales or Scotland, North England or whatever. You depend on one another, and you're a very knit company. It's got to be on a ship. You've got to be very, very close to one another.
Get no secrets.
But well, sure, it's a different thing. And the few times when we did get ashore, we never get any further than the dockyard. You'd wait for the nearest pub, but I wasn't with them this time, but some of my shipmates were ashore and they went to, I think it was South Shields or something, Newcastle, something ship I called, and we went to a dance or something. The next thing they were in a bar. I don't know whether it was with the Americans or the Air Force, I think it was. No, we didn't care much for the Air Force.
No.
Go on well with the Army. We're going well with the Army, the Pongos as we call them, or Swaddies or Pongos. But we didn't care for the Air Force members.
I suppose it was led an awful lot of frustration.
That's it. When you're at sea, we were solidly, without exaggeration, at Normandy, we were over 2 months, two months and maybe a week or a fortnight that weren't ashore or anywhere. We were constantly patrolling, protecting the merchant ships coming in with supplies and tanks, men, to supply the army as it advanced through, And you saw the big liners. There were some well-known liners too coming in as hospital ships. With the Red Cross on them, and they would lie off, you see, and they'd load some of the landing craft with the wounded from ashore and that. Take them away. Well, they had doctors and nurses and operating theatres in these big liners. Big liners had it there.
But of course they would get hit just the same as any other ship.
I know I remember once seeing two German planes. I don't know whether they were Messerschmitts. No, they weren't Messerschmitts. They were light bombers. And this was a big liner. And the Red Crosses were observant for miles, and in the air as well, coming in. But there were a lot of ships round about it, at sea and that. And what a barrage of the sky was black with shell fire. They got off their mark. As far as I know, they weren't brought down, but whether they've been hit or not, I don't know. And I remember once we took about a wounded Marine to a Red Cross ship, an hospital ship. And he'd all his kit, they got his kit together, and all the Marines had rifles or Bren guns or automatics, anything at all. And that was part of his equipment. It took him and his kit bag, his gear. They wouldn't take the rifle aboard.
No?
No, they're not allowed to take arms of any sort on him. No matter, it was his property until he handed it back, but he wouldn't take firearms onto the hospital ship. Well, that was another time we went to the hospital ship, was when we picked up these 50-odd survivors from that destroyer that was sunk, the Swift. It wasn't long after there were a merchant hospital ship that got come in. and they opened down in the hall somewhere. There was a doorway, and we just fetched them all in there.
Quickly secured.
That's good.
That was the Swift was the ship that you
Swift
stopped.
was a destroyer, a British destroyer.
And you stopped beside it.
That's right. Well, we'll still be a bit off it. We're quite a bit off.
50
Well, a lot of the men were in the sea. Some of them were hanging on. You know these carly floats. We call them carly floats.
Like rafts.
They're round. Aye, they're round like rafts, and they're just netting that's in the middle of it. You know, you were in the water, but you clung on to these, and some were corked, scrambling nets, and we went as close as we could to them. And the marine, everybody's out trying to haul them up, you know, and get a boat. And we took them. Some of them was all right, but shock. You could see the shock in them. They must have been a hell of exploded, because that destroyer went a complete two halves like that. And the bow and the stern were up like that. She went down like that.
That was a U-boat.
Just one hit. Aye, a torpedo. And we transferred them. I remember one bloke, he was a chief petty officer. He must have been engine room. I think the engine room would have got it, you know.
Right.
His whole back there was open, right there. And his leg here, lay in a stretcher. And I was standing beside him, you know, to try to see if we could do anything for him, you know. And he's quite complimentous, and I think I put a bandage in his leg, and this was too big here. But anyway, he was asking me, do you think I'll die? I said, no. I says you'll be home for Christmas. You know, he was worried, you know. But I think he might have, what would happen, I think what I saw his wounds, he would be crippled, you know, maybe paralysed from the hip, because just there, got the small of the back, just above it, was just one big thing of red mass. But I don't think he was hit. I think it was the explosion. You know, the explosion of the torpedo. He would be flung against something which damaged his back. But the power in these explosions.
How did it affect you personally, seeing all these wounds, hideous wounds?
Well, you're prepared to accept it. You've got to accept it. Because I can give an example. We were at Invergordon, as I said before, with another sister ship, alongside. We were in front of her, tied up alongside like that. And this one was edging her bows out in the stern. No, it was coming in, I think. No, it was edging the bows out, and they were going out. And there was a young seaman. He couldn't have been long in the Navy. He was on the jetty. And you know the way they give the heaving line to haul in the hawser to put it around the bollard. Well, he'd done that. But the silly bugger had his leg in between the bollard and the loop of the hawser. And of course, when the bow, the boat took the strain, it just snapped right in the middle, snapped it clean there. They brought him ashore, and they had their own medical chap aboard there, and he froze like that. It was a horrible sight. He never, and he's trained to attend to fix that. Never done that thing.
Reality's always different still.
And the scent, of course, by that time the ambulance had come down from the hospital at Invergordon. But the boy wasn't. He was under shock. He wasn't saying anything. You know. See, that kills more than sometimes the wound kills.
The shock.
The shock kills quicker than just the shock kills quicker than the wound. A lot of them die of the shock. The shock of getting the wound.
How did you react to that incident?
Well, I come out and he had on his boot, and I just stood watching him, and I cut the thing and took the boot off the foot. And if I had splints or anything, I could have splint his leg to keep it from moving. But we did get him on couple of the seamen and that got him onto a stretcher, and by that time an ambulance had come down from. But this fella, a trained man, and he froze. There's some people like that when they're in any danger, they freeze, they no do nothing. They just like that. But the only answer to that, you've got to do something. You've got to move and keep doing something. Otherwise, you're lost. You're lost.
Of course, people don't know how they will react.
I mean, a lot of people that get sick or freeze the sight of blood or somebody badly injured and that. And that's no doing any good, freezing. Do something. The point is, you overcome that freezing if you attempt to do something. You get moving, and you maybe put a tourniquet or whatever you can do, you know.
Well, I'll try to remember that.
But if you freeze, you're lost.
Yeah.
You're lost. And you lose the respect of your mates too.
Oh, of course. So you had to be a bit of a first aider as well.
Oh, you used to touch it. At that time, half the ship company, a good lot of them, myself included, we couldn't swim.
No, couldn't swim.
I didn't learn to swim. I never had the opportunity to learn to swim. And when we were training, you know, when we were training, they took you were in classes, you know, and took you up this, and it was a high tank filled with, it would be a wee bit bigger than the circumference of this room and circumference, but it was high up. It took you up there, the instructor, and all the boys you had to wear your life belt, right enough. Wear your life belt. And you hell of a job getting those that couldn't swim. You would wear life belt to jump in. I went in all right, but I knew I could feel the life belt hold me, that's fine. But so something.
So where was
After that, I learned to swim.
Where was you did your training?
Pwllheli, North Wales.
North Wales. Never heard.
It was a famous. And then they'd sent you out to whatever division. The three main divisions was Chatham, Portsmouth, and Devonport. Donald John, he was Portsmouth, and I was Chatham, and Wally was Chatham.
Mm-hmm.
But they took me. That was general service for crews for the General Navy, you know, Royal Navy. But for land, the combined operations was separate for that. Combined operations meant combinations with the Army and the Air Force and the Marines, you know. Because general service were more for attacking enemy warships or protecting convoys going over to America or whatever, to the Mediterranean, Russia and that, you know. That was general service. But for assault landings and invasions and that was combined operations. You worked in cooperation with the Army and the Air Force, you know. The Air Force go in first and bomb, and then of course sometimes the big ships, like say at Normandy, the big ships would maybe lying 2 or 3 miles out to sea, and you could hear them these big shells going over you, you know, as we were going out the beaches.
You wouldn't like them to, the bombs to fall
But
short.
But that sight of these ships, June the 6th, just before the initial landing, they sailed all through the night, you know, from Monday. But you just see, there were thousands of ships, all types, merchant ships, troop ships, landing craft, everything there. Minesweepers. And then there were the big ships at the back of that again, you know, the big bomb. They were there for bombardment purposes. There was the Belfast, the cruiser, there was some of the big bombardment ships were there too. You hear the shells spitting around.
They're really big guns, eh?
Aye, the big stuff.
Well, that was it then, eh?
And after the first initial landing, once they got in and cleared the
Normandy.
beaches, they had to dig in. They had to dig in for waiting for the German counter-attack. You know, this is the thing that we were all, you'd be waiting for. And after the heavy day, you were blooming tired, you know, and they would give you pethidine, I think it was, 3 tablets. This kept you awake. It was a dope, you know, a pethidine, and it kept you, the stimulant, it kept you going. I mean, you didn't get any sleep the first couple of days, and this kept you going. But see, when the effects of this were over, you're like a wet rag, you know.
Until your was recovered. Did you ever pick up any Germans?
No, we never picked up any Germans. I've seen plenty. I've seen some dead ones, you know. I remember dead. We never. At that part, there were big. There weren't all Germans there. There was Lithuanians, and you had men from other parts of Europe in the forces.
Right.
You know, possibly forced. You know, they would have maybe Russians too for you know, for doing the heavy work and that sort of thing. Only all Germans.
No.
There's these bloody French women. The old boys were mad. Oh, they didn't show any mercy to them.
No.
This is with their German boyfriends, you know, and they were up in this steeple. Well, you know, a bell or a belfry or something like that. It was a church anyway. But they were firing on the boys coming ashore. I think it was our part. It was we landed. I think it was the 50th Northumberland Division and the 51st Highland Division came to landed them.
Did they have many casualties?
Oh, they were just, they got, once they got inland, you see, the territory there was these, was all hedges, very difficult territory.
Snipers everywhere.
Aye, snipers was there. And their tanks were far superior to ours, or the Americans.
Everything about the Germans seemed to be superior.
Their ships were far superior to ours. I mean, they're big ships. Oh, aye, I tell you, they had good stuff, the Germans. The Tiger tanks were far superior to the Sherman or what the hell?
With the church
And their armament would go through our tanks. Ours would only bounce off the bullets. It was a lot of heavy fighting in that part because of these hedges and hedgerows and they could hide, you know, the sniping, and it's hard to get into it. Unless they could send in some of the bombers, you know, the light bombers to bomb them, you know, to clear. But that day you'd say, oh, well, that's they've had it. Once you'd start up again. Surprising how you escape it.
certainly seemed to have had a busy time of it. Is there one thing that sticks out in your memory most?
With the actual landing and seeing the men going, and you see the beaches covered with the wounded and that sort of thing. In fact, I was in the police in Lanarkshire, and the lad in the office, our divisional headquarters was in Lanark itself, you know. And the lad in there, the constable he was limping about. He had his leg blown off at Normandy, you know. He must have volunteered from the police into it. But they got him a job, they got him an office job. I forget that lad's name. Big strapping lad he was too. Another thing they were doing, they were booby trapping a lot of the bodies too, the Germans.
Really?
That's a fact. Because they sent somehow, you know, they took some men off the ships to go ashore as burial parties, gathering the bodies, and they had to take ropes. They had them booby trapped. That's a fact. Everything was booby trapped. You put the kettle on, Campbell. Seem you're doing nothing.
I was going to say, but I didn't want to say.
Don't get you bad boy.
The thing that sticker was that destroyer, the Swift, the boys in the water, and some of them were wounded too.
Aye.
You know
A lot
how there must have been some mates that helped them into the water,
Uh-huh.
and it was these. I don't know if you've seen them. They were called Carley floats. They were that shape, you know, but the centre of it was just a net.
I've seen
You could
pictures.
cling on to them.
I have
On they had long lengths of fibre or rope with corks on it, and you could hold on to that.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of them. Well, we got as many as we could. And I think there were a sister ship that got some too, you know. But most of them I would take it in the engine room, and round about that area would have lodged, you know. Down. I don't know what size of cruise she had.
They like their
The one thing I wasn't on, I wouldn't have fancied it, you know, with that, was the Russian convoys. I think that was a hell of a.
There were people from around here in the convoys, wasn't there?
Aye, you got a lot of the boys from Lewis and the islands there. It was in these convoys.
Right.
We used to, as I say, we were escort for convoys, but we couldn't. We weren't big enough to go on like to Russia.
No.
But we took them up to the north of Scotland, where they would join a convoy going to Russia. You know, West Scotland, because the North Sea was a dangerous place for e-boats and
Just alive.
these caustic mines and.
Oh.
A lot of boats sunk with these acoustic and magnetic mines, you know. But
In freezing conditions.
oh, Russia.
But yourselves up in the north.
Aye. We were in the
Just-
winter, even in Invergordon, the place was white with snow when we got in there. We were up there for invasion, practice mock invasion landings, you know. That before the actual real invasion too. Oh, aye, there was.
That picture we seen earlier.
I've read about them. I knew some boys that was on them. But they had a hell of a life, and
Terrible
But-
casualties.
there was on one occasion, I forget, they were either QP or PQs.
Mm-hmm.
Then each convoy was numbered PQ or QP. And going to Murmansk and Archangel. And they were escorted by the British Navy. And this is the only time the Navy ran away and left them. There were about 30 odd merchant ships, all loaded with planes and tanks and all sorts of equipment for Russia. And the Scaregout, the Scharnhorst, the German battleship, was out, and our Navy left the convoy. Well, we don't know whether they were going to search for or look for it. But anyway, the convoy had no escorts, bar for a couple of wee small gunboats. That was all they had. And they sunk nearly every one of the merchant ships. There were 30 odd merchant ships. A few got through damaged, you know. But the ice there, they were chipping the ice of the upper decks and everywhere. The ice was inches, feet thick. Oh, I don't really fancy it. And then you get into the water there, even unwounded, you went to the water there, you wouldn't last 5 minutes. Cold, you know, you're frozen stiff. Couldn't.
Now it's cold enough around here. That
Oh, the seas on there was bad.
a tremendous price paid by everybody.
Listen, you got some books, good books in the library on that. You get, I've read one or two on the Russian convoys. You know, these boys it was a tough time for them, very tough time. And on the Atlantic too.
Yeah.
Going up the general thing, we went north, going this way, north up to Iceland, Greenland.
Right.
Iceland to Greenland, and then from there across to St. Lawrence or wherever, New York. And the same coming back. And then France having fallen, and the Germans in France, and Norway. they had a longer range for their planes
Of course.
out to sea and their U-boats too. We nearly had it in 42. There was such a vast amount of shipping, merchant shipping especially,
Being lost.
sunk.
Yeah.
Sunk. It wasn't until they got radar, developed that they could, they could pinpoint or pick out where a submarine was. Before that, it was hit or miss, Oh, it was.
Thanks very much, Campbell.
I let Joe and he's at the window.
So how long would you stay at sea in your boat for?
Oh, I was telling you, at Normandy, 4, 8, 9, 10 weeks, but 10 weeks without ever going near land.
You 10 weeks.
10 weeks in the English Channel off Normandy, without, and we weren't allowed to go into Arromanches or Mulberry for even for we needed provisions. We were down to, I don't know if you ever seen big square box, tin boxes that side of sea biscuits. You ever seen sea biscuits? They're harder than dog biscuits. That's what, and they exploded a mine. And the fish were coming stunned, and we're over the side. That's God's truth. Scooping up the fish, and we're skipper. We signalled a merchant ship that was going by, going in. I see. And they gave us 2 or 3 sacks of tatties.
Aye. To keep it going.
And it wasn't until after that they allowed us in to get provisions and ammunition, of course.
But you were 10 weeks
10 weeks.
in the open sea.
And we opened sea.
My goodness. That was
Never a door. At least when we're before that, we'd be seeing, we'd call into Immingham or King's Lynn or South Shields. I picked up my first boat at South Shields in the middle of the night. Come down. What is a joke? Oh, you're a hit the ball. You're a hit the ball joke.
That's a lovely cat. It's nearly human.
What do you want? Did you know Keegan? Oh gosh. You want a cup of tea? Aye, I was just seeing
You're saying you're 10 weeks at sea.
that's right, 10 weeks
That's a long time.
without being ashore.
But it was quite a small boat.
They wouldn't allow us in because it was that essential, critical that the lines of supply from south of England into France to keep our army supply had to be protected.
Right.
And as I say, every night we went out there and made a circle right out into the channel to intercept anything that was coming from the east, from Le Havre or from the German direction.
So you'd be under fire quite a bit.
That's where it was off Normandy, just the first couple of days after the landing, the first land. I saw this. I thought it was a plane on fire, and here it was. That was the buzz bomb. I thought it was a plane. We did. That was when they first started using the secret weapon, and they had them at sea as well. What do you call them? These motor explosive boats, 2-man subs, and things like that. That's when they started using these things.
They were just
Hitler was
throwing
bombing
everything
about his secret weapons then that would stop us, but they never stopped us. All right, Joe. Hey? Big dafty. Yeah, big dafty.
You would have come under fire.
Oh, I was. That first couple of nights, we're being shelled, as I told you, that the LCF 42, the first one I was on, and I was just off a fortnight roughly. As I said, she was going alongside the Belfast when she was hit.
Aye.
We were shelling all the time. In the daylight, we had to withdraw from there. It was only at night that we were out there. But at night, they couldn't see us. Well, away you go. Couldn't see it. But during the day we had to retreat back, we didn't. He's all right.
Jealousy.
Oh, he's very affectionate. So is the wee one, the wee runt of the family. She's running about somewhere.
So of course you'd have all your machine guns blazing away.
They had a couple of machine guns up on the bridge just. But the rest was all, as I said, the Orlikans. They're a Swedish maker gun. Quick firing, I don't know how many to the minute. 20 millimeter.
Aye.
But with that length of a shell in it, you know. And Bofors. See, they were all anti-aircraft, you know.
You
for
would
our
fire
big
these
boat.
yourself?
We were interchangeable. If any of the Marine gunners, generally it was the Marines took over the guns, but if any of them were knocked out, or like any of the Marines knocked out, any of the seamen or any of the naval men,
Just grab.
you
Get
know.
on with it.
We would try to interchange it. If any of the engine room men were in, you'd be able to take over.
How many of a crew did you have?
With 20, I think, 20 naval,
Is that right?
20 and 110 or 120 Marines. 2 Marine officers. The senior Marine officer was angry. He's only a wee bloke that came from Edinburgh.
Uh-huh.
And the skipper was only a wee shitty, I think, too. The skipper and the Jimmy the One, we call that, his first officer. That was all. 2 naval officers, 2 Marine officers, 120, say, Marines, and about 20 naval raiders.
Great stuff. So you'd be really glad then when the war did finally end. You had enough.
Although, mind you, I preferred being on a ship than being ashore. A lot of them have spent half their navy careers in ashore and barracks and that sort of thing. I'd rather be in a ship.
You would.
They're a comradeship among men at sea that you never see in ashore.
No.
Never see in ashore. Especially in times like these where you're so dependent on one another, you know.
But still in all, once it was over you were
Only the conditions you were living under. You were very wet ship. And seeing rough weather, I mean, being flat bottom and blunt nosed, blunt, just like the landing craft, only wore deck.
Right.
You were going in a corkscrew movement like that all day. And when the stern went up, the Navy boys were at the stern end. The Marines were off the midships forward, you know. They were crabbed enough, but we used to get 20. Well, there was never always 20 because there were always a watch on, you know, the interchanged.
right.
But the kedge anchor was in the stern, and every time she bumped your wall up, the bloody kedge was rising and smashing down in the back end. Right just where we were staying, we were living, we were sleeping.
So it wasn't giving you much peace and quiet, was it?
No.
No.
In the rough weather, you know, generally it was all right. It was plain sailing, but it was rough. It could be very rough. You were going in a corkscrew, and that made a lot of the boys think, you know.
I dare say. Well, that's been very interesting. Things, Campbell? Alright. I think so. Thanks very much for your time.
Oh, geez. Oh, he had a good time. See the big ships, yeah. But then you were more ready. We were more like a merchant ship, a crew of a merchant ship, rather as Royal Navy and Marines. You know, we had a lot of freedom. When at sea, we wore what we like. I mean, it could be damn cold and freezing at night. And we get these comforts, you know, polo neck jerseys. Maybe some of the women had knitted, and you get socks sent to you. You got a bundle of what we call comforts, forces comforts. Maybe a woman, it's knitted jerseys, knitted socks, with these sheepkin sleeveless jackets, you know, you could wear under your duffel coat, you know. Even with a duffel coat, it could be bloody cold up there. And then it was as black, you know, especially in a black night, you couldn't see your nose in front of you, you know. And just going by the navigation, just going purely by plotting, you know.
So there'll be a lot of your ships lost, your type of
Oh, there were a lot, especially at Vulcan. They were smashed at Vulcan.
At where?
Vulcan in Holland.
Oh, why?
West Capelli, there was no. See, it's a Navy. were bombarding from going in at the shore, taking the Marines on the seaward side. The Canadians and the Scottish division coming in from the landward side in this part of Holland, you know.
Right.
And I think they fluffed it really with her. They had done, I don't know if you've ever seen them in the films or anything like that. It was landing craft, and they carried, I don't know how many hundreds of rocket launchers. You seen them? They send them off in batches.
That's right, yes. I know what you
And
mean.
what they've done, they let them off in the wrong area.
Oh, for goodness sake.
But the thing is that their guns were far superior. We only had landing craft there. You know. I think they lost about 20 odd out of only 25 in their landing craft. You know.
Lost 20.
Aye, 20 something, 22 or something like
That's
that.
horrendous.
They lost a bit.
And you were one of the...
The guns were far superior to, you know, they could hit. They did manage to get in through one of they got one boat through into a breach, and the dike was a dike, you know, the Dutch dikes.
Right.
They managed to get one boat, but they wiped the crew. Do you know how they wiped the crew out with flamethrowers from land? Flamethrowers. Oh, but the army coming towards us behind them, they mopped them up, you know. Canadians in the Scottish division. And that was only, see, the idea was, I don't know, you know, the Scheldt going up through Holland, it's the main river there. That was dotted with ships that had been sunk right along, merchant ships. Well, when our armies and the Americans advanced into Belgium and Holland, the lines of supply were being stretched. The lines of supply were at Arromanches so they had to get another port that they could land their supplies and everything, men and that. And it was Antwerp and Ostend they wanted, but they had to go up the Scheldt to Antwerp. And the Germans are at this end, at Walcheren, and they bombarded anything out of a track. So the army took Antwerp and Ostend, but they had to clear the Germans out here as well. So they were guarding the mouth of the Scheldt for any merchants or any supply, any ships going up there. So to knock them out. So there were supply ships could go up to Antwerp and Ostend to supply the army, because it was the lines were too stretched from France up to Holland, you know. It's too long a stretch. So they wanted a nearer place, a nearer port, which was nearer the front line was at Antwerp and Ostend.
So you were in the thick of it, eh?
Well, that was sure of it anyway.
You had your share of it. As much as you wanted.
But so I often felt, when seeing these, that first morning when they were landing, seeing these, escorting these troop assault boats and filled with troops, and they were, the sea was rough. It was a rough morning. The sea was very, and they were green, seasickness. I felt a hell of a sympathy for them going into that land in Normandy, you know, the sight of them.
Such a condition to go into.
Oh, seasickness. I've never been bothered with seasickness in my life. In fact, the rougher it was, the more I liked it. That's a fact. Oh, as I was going to tell you, our mess deck was here, the Marines were there, and you come up the ladder through the hatch, cross over the deck, down to the galley here, and the Marines were there to get the Dixies for your breakfast or dinner, whatever. And we used to put Marines on the guns. They were green. Some of them, and a lot of them were affected with seasickness. I would take the Dixies under the roses, you know. You never got my. It was always what do you call it? Red lead and turkey bacon. That's all you got for breakfast.
That's it.
Red lead we call tomatoes, you know, fried tomatoes and a bit bacon.
That was your lot.
That was your breakfast. Those supplies were food was very scarce.
Everything was scarce, I suppose.
But when we ran out, that time we were at that long period at sea, we ran out of provisions. But we had these emergency. They stood about that height. They were square, and they were filled with sea biscuits. We could sea, and it was hard. But you were that bloody hungry. So I wonder your teeth could stand it. Oh. And then we tapped. There were a merchant ship going by, and the skipper got them. I don't know how he done it. We managed to get 2 of his sacks of tatties off them. Then we got some fish from exploding the mine, you know.
I was saying. Get by on whatever you could, eh?
Well, we were in Holland after that neighbouring island, Schouwen Island, with the Germans, and they surrendered. Chris, if we had only 2 flagships there, 2, and maybe about a couple of hundred Marines. Right enough, they had a wee motor launch with commandos on it, but they've slaughtered us. We wouldn't have had a stood a chance. That's what we were there for, to land there. But the army was that advancing that quick. The Germans surrendered. They surrendered, Schouwen. So we just carried on, and the skipper says, "Well, these are all. We'll try and give you a drop of leave." There was nothing in Holland. There was nothing there. They had a bar where you could get a glass of lager or something, and they arranged with the army to give us 40 each, 2 at a time. It went. We were only allowed 2 of us at a time to get 48 hours leave in Brussels. We got to Brussels, it was full of troops and a very damn thing, you know. There was a hotel there that I forget it. I always remember that hotel. And we were over there at night and you were back the next day. And you had to go to when we were there, we never got any money or any pay or that, you see. And they gave us yon red, white and blue coloured, they were red, white and blue coloured French or Belgium notes. But we could exchange it for, I don't know, was it Dutch guldens or, oh no, we had Dutch guldens. And we could exchange it for these Belgium or Dutch, French francs. They had an exchange place there. But there was a lot of shenanigans going on there.
Quite an experience.
We came up when we were in Holland, on one of the canals there, came to a big what do you call it? Party boat. And it had this drawn painting of a wolf inside it. It was actually a sort of place where German officers would go for a night or something. You know, that was holes blown into it. Well, near there was a wee place, and it was full of grenades, German grenades. Different from ours, were more, wasn't so much shrapnel as blast grenades. Like nowadays they would call stun grenades. But you didn't go near any of these things, so you saw something you had to watch. But everyone they were frightened of booby traps, the booby traps, everything. But what happened, this thing was the aircraft, some of our maybe fighters or that had blasted this. It was a holiday boat sort of thing, where probably it would be for German officers and that. And it was RAF that we saw, and they made a right mess of it too. But I always remember on the side it would a painting or a drawing of a wolf howling, you know, on the side of this boat, you know. And he's bloody great. The skipper told me. See what we done when we were on this in the canal, we sent a squad of Marines ashore and they dug pits, you know, these, and they put men in these pits overnight, you know. And if you went ashore at all to go into the village years ago, you had a password and a different password every night. Because you were challenged with these sent, bloody shoot you, you had the right password. I remember that, there was some laughs there. I remember, I forget now, I think it was Southampton. This is before, was it before? I can't remember if it was before Normandy or after. But we're allowed ashore and we were tied out at Boys and the Liberty boat would come up, just a motor launch. Usually it's maybe 2 or 3 wrens that would handle it, you know, one would be in the tiller and another one in the engine that could come alongside the ships and take the Liberty men, the men that was allowed ashore that night. You had to be back by next morning, you know. And the Marines, they were in their best. It was afternoon. He was in his best uniform, you know, blue uniform, big overcoat on him. And he was getting on, as the boat came into the jetty, he overstepped the edge, he was standing on the edge to step up onto the jetty. And he missed his step and he went right down. And all was left was his cap floating the top of it. How he was going to have it, his shore leave. He had it.
Short and sweet, eh?
You got some laughs too, you know. He was a Manchester lad, I think. Tell his accent. But that was the difficult when we first joined. Going to we were in Savage, you know, way down into England, in England into Wales. And we all gathered gradually at a station there. And there were men from all over England and Scots and Welsh. And you couldn't understand what you words. At the end I couldn't. Oh, I can understand all the dialects now, but then everybody, the Scots would all get together, you know. Scots, well, Scott and that sort of thing, you know. But then we got into Pochelly there in the Navy training camp, you know, the first initial training camp. It took you a while to get to know the different tongues, you know, the different accents and that.
It all seem very strange.
But let's say I knew one chap, Crook, what the hell was his name? Crookshanks or something. He came from Aberdeen and he was broad Aberdeen. No bugger, nobody could understand him. None of the English could understand him. One of the biggest bloody thieves you ever came across. I remember we paid off, I think, at Poole. We were in Poole. That's a naval base now, to Poole. It was the combined ops base at that time. It was him and I was going to go ashore. He says, hang on, he says, I'll meet you down, once you go out the dockyard, past the centre further down. And here's a bucket. Further along, and inside the camp there was a compound there for the wrens quarters, you know. And I forget his name. He was Aberdonian anyway. The next thing I saw him, he had a bloody radio, a wireless of it. He had gone into the compound, it was dark of course, it was in the evening, late evening. And the windows into the they were on one where you could hear the girls chattering, you know. And in this room they had the radio, but there was nobody in. It was dark, but the window was open, and he pitched a bloody radio. I'd sold it. I think these folks sold it in a chip. The owner of a chip shop down in the town. I forget what town. I don't know whether it was. Poole or
Dorset.
Poole and Dorset, or I think it was Poole. But shortly after that, we got to when that was where the combined ops base, and when we come back from Holland, they gave us some leave, and they sent us to Belfast to get tropical eye. We're getting in that Germany had packed, that would be in the month of May. Germany had packed in, and they were getting us ready to send us out Far East, Japan. I know when you're long after that, they dropped the hydrogen bomb, atomic bombs on them, and they sent us back to England. I don't know, the boat would, a lot of these rivers down the southwest of England, they just landing craft and that, you could have got them for a song too. Old Willie was one, and he was at that time they would help you if you were wanting to take up the fishing. They would help you maybe with a loan or a grant to get a boat and that sort of thing. You could have got them for a song. That was my number.
Oh yes.
Royal Navy Combined Ops. 331st Support Flotilla. LCF 39. 42 was the first one, was on the 39. That was my
I'll see this, please.
These are official. These are no. You can buy miniatures in the shops and that.
Okay.
These are First World War. These are my uncles.
These are your uncles?
That's my uncles from the First World War.
I see, right. Nice to have.
Their names are written round the rims. But they didn't put the names in the Second World War ones. These are my uncles.
Right.
So this is my own. There's the official. This is one of the government ones. There's the official list. What ones I was entitled to. That's them all there.
Right.
The various ones. The RAF and see, I used to have that when I was in the police. I had to wear my ribbons, you know, and then on a special occasion I had to wear medals. The thing I've never done for donkey's ages. Well, that's Bruce Fraser, and the American. What was his name? It was Eisenhower. Bruce Fraser, and MacArthur. General MacArthur, the Americans.
And they were signing the surrender.
They were signing it. The Japs had already signed it.
Right.
See, it tells you there. Can you use the specs on me? Whether or not. I can't read about man. Want to see over? There it's there. They're the Japanese signings. General MacArthur. That's him there. On the left, watching the army surrender on the Missouri. That was an American battleship. Missouri.
That was a pretty big one, wasn't it?
Aye, the wee big. I was never in big. Donald was in the big ships. They're the Japs again.
Now, who took these photographs?
Well, my brother, Donald John, he, as I say, he was out there in the Duke of York. He would get them either on board ship or some of them would have photographed. See, nowadays we weren't allowed, we wouldn't be allowed a camera or to write a diary or that, just in case. There's Hiroshima.
Not much left of it.
Sydney Dread.
There's the Duke.
That's a superstructure of this. But I bet the photographs of that. There's the other Hiroshima. Hiroshima.
What was left?
There's my brother there, Donald John. An Eric Shaw or something. Nagasaki. They were in there about just several weeks after they dropped the atomic bomb on them.
Not a place I'd like to go.
No, there's Tokyo after the surrender. There's Fujiyama. There's my brother in Sydney, Australia. Hobart. That's Hobart in Tasmania. And his mates from UK. That's Donald John there.
And he was
That's-
killed
No, he was killed after he came home.
after he came home.
He killed in a motorcycle accident.
And is that the ship that he was on?
That's, I think that's the Duke.
Mhm.
That's it there again. I think it was her that sank the Tirpitz. There's the cruiser collecting mail, sending mail across. But these are his. They're a burial at sea.
There'd be plenty of that.
Well, at Normandy, they didn't have time. They just threw them over the side.
Is that right?
There were hundreds of them floating by our ship all the time we were out there. Navy and Army. You know, and there were troop ships sunk and all, you know. That's them up there. They're up there with someone's graves.
And did John live round here?
Who?
Your brother, did he live, John? Did he live?
Donald?
Donald, sorry.
No, he didn't live. No, he'd been up here, but he didn't live.
No, he didn't live.
Didn't live on. That's him there again.
It's
But
good
that was
photographs, but it also makes you very sad, I'm sure.
the Rock of Gibraltar,
Oh, yes.
Mediterranean.
And that's his company there.
But the photos I have a photo. I haven't even any photos. We weren't allowed to have photos.
Tell me about this photo then. You tell me about who's this chap up here on the left?
Aye, Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
He was we call him a bunting tosser, you know, the signaller.
Ah.
That's him. He was killed. Well, there are quite a number of them boys. That fellow was with me, and he gave him Somerset somewhere.
Mhm.
You know, in the Somerset accent. But then, well, that was our skipper there, and that was the Marine captain.
Right.
He was an Edinburgh man now.
This chap you were saying was
Aye.
Campbell. He was
Campbell
stood beside
he
you,
came from Elgin. Aye, he was beside me on the upper deck,
just standing beside you.
getting shelled. Aye,
Was there a bit of shrapnel or something?
that was shrapnel.
Mm-hmm. Just it's very sad.
Oh well, no, we'll see
Yeah.
this. This is the one you Donald's album. There's the ship's company that
Well,
you
that's a
got.
good shot now. What a multitude of men.
He was up here somewhere.
Right.
He showed me a long while. I can't remember where he was. There's she was sunk in Normandy. That was one of ours. See the guns that's on it, right down. This never dropped. You know the way in tank landing craft these drop. That was fully decked. You know, and you see they had guns all around. Most of them Macaque.
They're quite big guns though.
Well, 20 millimeter.
20 millimeter.
They call them LCFs. And then there was LCGs. Same kind of ship, but they had two 4.7 heavier guns, you know, for shelling positions ashore. We were more for protection.
They shallow in the water. Would float in shallow water.
1945.
Is that a picture of
That's these two Marines and myself.
yourself in the middle, is it?
That was taken in Brussels.
In Brussels.
We got 48 hours leave from Holland into Brussels. You saw that.
Oh, yeah, that's
There now, there's 30. And that was the artist's impression from a sister ship. You'll see how many guns they had along each side. See, they were getting a dive bombed there. That was in the channel, the English channel.
And that's an impression of what it actually
That
looked
was
like.
the artist's thing of from another flagship. It was off our starboard side.
So you were certainly under heavy fire there with planes diving down top
Oh,
of
it's a blooming experience,
you.
I'll
Quite
tell
an
you.
experience.
It was a very wet ship too. Your hammocks, we to wear our oilskins on, over our, when we were in our hammocks, you know, put with it's the condensation. It was all steel, there was no woodwork. That was a Dutch family that I got, that I knew this. That's me there with them. I was in Holland and at Ierseke, a place called Ierseke. And the next island was occupied by the Germans.
And you got friendly with these people.
Aye, they were, you know, we could go up and get, they didn't have a great deal to eat. You'd get, we used to take them jam and woolens and soap and things like that they couldn't get.
Well, that's it.
That's Donald again with some of me. There's my brother there, and that's my brother, and that's one of his mates, and that's my cousin, Australian. He was in the Australian Army. That's that is the Duke of York in Hong Kong.
That's the ship.
The battleship. That was how it sank the tugboats, I think. Which,
Oh, a huge tonnage of a ship
oh, that was our biggest battleship after the Hood was sunk.
after the Hood.
That was the reason she went after the turprets.
Right.
The turprets had sunk the Hood.
Poor old Hood came to a sticky end.
I was a fluke shot.
It was, I think, yeah. But it was still very old, wasn't it?
Oh, she was one of our newest. She was our newest battleship.
Shows how much I know.
That's Willie, the other brother. He was Willie. These are all Highland lads. There's some from Rossshire and some from Lewis there. They're all just young boys, you know.
Teenage, well, 19.
Aye, that was all they were.
Mm-hmm.
At Normandy too, they were all just boys.
Right.
You see dozens of them floating past you off the shore, you know. That's the Duke again. And this is mostly that's me piping.
Yeah, that's yourself piping.
That was my sister that got married. I was Donald Cameron, and my youngest sister. I was piping them at their wedding.
Have you always played the pipes?
Oh, since I was about 16.
16.
I had them away with me. We used to play
Yeah,
when I was
ship.
aboard ship. Oh, the boy! I remember one. I was coming in the year 1943 was it? 44, 1944. We come into what do they call it? We came ashore anyway, and we're going to leave the next day, and we had cigarettes saved up, and I had a couple of bottles of rum saved up. We used to get our rum every day. What we used to do when we were at sea, you know, the weather was bad, you know, black as devil. You would dare not show a cigarette end, you know.
No.
And we keep our tots of rum for night if you're on watch at night, you know, at sea. Well, let's say we came ashore and they said, well, they had sentries in the gate, and they see you weren't taking any contraband on it. And all the boys had saved up, you know, in the Navy, you're never short of cigarettes, you know, or tobacco, plenty of that, and anything you want to get. Well, when the wee dinghy, and the boys, we're out at a buoy, you see, we had a wee dinghy out, and we loaded the dinghy up with this stuff we were going to get it ashore, and we could collect it the next day. And when he was picked out for searching by the sentries in the gates, you know, in the dockyard. We didn't have anything. It was all ready ashore. We buried it in a blooming graveyard.
In a graveyard?
Aye. Weymouth. That was the place. But most of these are Donald's photos, and Donald and Willie this. He was a torpedo man. That's his torpedo party. He was a torpedo man in Japan. There's Willie, and that was his. These are the same photo.
Yeah.
These are two cousins. This fellows, I think the Japs killed him. And they switched hats. That's Donald John, my brother, and these are my two cousins, Australian. They were native born Australians, you know. There's Donald John again. This is his book, really, you know. Malta. That's Willie's ship, HMS Alert. It's a frigate, you know.
Uh-huh.
He was out the Far East too, Willie.
What would that be mainly doing?
Oh, the bay. I suppose. I can't remember now.
Chasing submarines or?
No, well, at that time the war had been practically finished then.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Right.
That was the longest in there. There's a hill that in Argyllshire. That's Donald, my brother there. That's myself.
That's yourself.
We used to go climb. That's him there. There's Jackie, my brother. He was in the army, Jack with my father. There's Donald and Jack. The old man. These are all more family photos. That's my father there. That's Donald John. Wasn't long after that he was killed in a motorcycle accident. Going up Loch Lomond side on a motorbike. Dead of winter and it was ice, you could skate in it.
Dear me, what a waste.
Oh, after, I don't know. But nobody know what the future has
No, that's right.
for you, you know.
No.
You take each day as it comes. Well, that's that cousin I told you was in the Marines. He was from Glasgow. He lived in Glasgow, but he joined the Marines. He was out in Australia and he met Donald, my brother, out there, you know. That's cousins again, an Australian cousin.
Good.
The most. And that's Australian cousin, man. That's the Alistair. Alistair, he was in the Marines. And that was Angus. He was Australian. I think he was killed in the Australian forces in, don't know, what the, Burma or some of these places, you know.
Very sad.
That's Jackie. And it was just after the war, he was in the army. See, the three oldest of us was in the Navy. Myself, Donald and Willie were in the Navy. And Jackie, Neil and Lachie were in the army. But the army ones, it was after the war, they were just more or less taking charge of places, you know, like out in Egypt and out in the Far East. These are all pictures from on board Malta. Miserable. He's quite a bit of a humorist though. He always had a wee word at the fort. This is Singapore. Singapore. Yes. Okay now.
Alright, fine. Great.
But see,
He's quite a photographer.
I don't know whether it was himself or some of his mates. There's a search party searching Jap prisoners
Right.
coming in. This is Cairo pyramids.
Right. Oh, tremendous to have the photographs. There we are. This is getting very heavy. I'll have to put it down.
That's a camcorder.
Well, that's right.
Very expensive.
Very expensive.
They're
Yeah.
very popular too.
Well, you get them made a bit smaller now.
That's it. She was so good. No,
Which was that one?
yes, 30.
Oh, I
The
think.
flagship. I call them LCFs.
Oops, where are we now?
We were 12 of us in a flotilla, 301st flotilla, and 3 of us came back. And then we went out to Holland after that to a landing at Volchem, West Capelli. And then went up the Scheldt, you know, the river Scheldt up into Holland proper.